Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Take a Break with Jake. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jake. Kelsey's up on the screen above.
Thanks.
And with me today are two snakes. The first one I'll be sharing with everyone is Dante, our Dumeral's ground boa. And then once he's done, after a bit, we will get out Harvey, who's a Brazilian rainbow boa. So without further ado, this is Dante. Look how cute he is. Hi, Dante.
I love that pattern.
I know, he's absolutely stunning.
Wow.
Dumeral's ground boas are just spectacularly patterned so they can blend in really well with leaf litter. So obviously he stands out on this kind of blue-gray background. But out in the wild, Dumeral's ground boas are found on the island of Madagascar. In their primary habitat, there's not a ton of rain that happens, but there are some like dry forests. And because of all those dry forests, there are quite a few leaves that fall to the ground. And so the Dumeral's ground boa relies on all of those leaves as help for his camouflage. He can blend in there and wait for unsuspecting mice and rats and even small species of lemur to come by and become food.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty darn cool. So as
Jake, could you
Yeah.
maybe give us like a hand for scale?
Yeah, so my hand is this here, which like doesn't really do much. Let me try to get up high. He looks really tiny right now, but he's about 3.5 feet long. And that's about as big as a male Dumeral's ground boa gets. What's really cool is the females will get almost double that size and quite a bit thicker.
Wow.
So he's about 2 inches wide here. So some other really cool things about Dumeral's ground boas. Obviously, all snakes are carnivores, which means that they eat meat. And I get a question a lot of times, like, can snakes eat other things? Like, can they eat vegetables or can they eat fruit? The answer is no, for two reasons. One, their body is not made to process produce like fruits and vegetables. And two, it wouldn't taste good to them. That'd be like me asking you to like eat some plastic. Would you do it? Probably not.
No.
You'd be like, it doesn't smell good, doesn't look good, doesn't taste good. No, thank you. So for those reasons, snakes are obligate carnivores, which means that they only eat meat. And that's actually a really valuable ecosystem service that snakes provide all around the world. And we talked a little bit about ecosystem services yesterday, if you joined us for our Vulture talk. But for those of you who are new, ecosystem services is just something that an animal provides for that benefits the entire ecosystem. And typically it's something that the animal does just naturally, like living its everyday life. It's not actively seeking ways to help the ecosystem. It's just being present. So
just
for
doing
snakes,
its thing.
Yeah, exactly. Just doing its thing. For snakes, that's providing natural pest control. Snakes here in our backyard eat tons and tons of mice and rats. So that's really beneficial to farmers and other folks who grow food outside. Things like corn are really easily eaten by mice and rats. And so having snakes around is a really great way to keep your population of rodents around your house down without having to use harmful chemicals in your yard. He's just sitting here chilling. Dante is one of our more like slow moving snakes. So here at the zoo, he will come out for encounters and programs, really all around Middle Tennessee as well. He travels with our outreach programs. And he usually kind of looks like this. He's just hanging out. I gave him some nice big rocks today to try to climb on, and he climbed on them a little bit. And then he's like, okay, now I'll sit. And that's really pretty normal for snakes. You don't often see them like running around like maybe small birds you see here in Tennessee are always like flitting around and finding food. Snakes have really slow metabolism, so they can eat maybe once every week, 2 weeks, even up to a month without eating and still be perfectly fine. And so typically their meals are pretty large. He eats rats here at the zoo, and that kind of leads us to how snakes hunt and eat. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, he has this beautiful camouflage that he uses to blend into his surroundings. And so he'll lie in wait, an animal will come by, say a rat, he lunges forward. He can strike with about the first half of his body, which is pretty impressive. And so that's about 1.5 feet that he can lunge forward. He'll snap onto the rat, grab it with his big teeth and mouth, and then wrap his entire body around the rat and squeeze it so tightly that its blood stops pumping and it's unable to breathe. And that's how they dispatch their prey. And the cool thing about snakes is they can eat something about the size of the widest part of his body. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, he's about 3.5 feet long. His girth is maybe like 4 or 5 inches around, like that. So he can eat a whole rat, even though his head is so much smaller than the bulk of his body. And then typically, snakes will eat their prey head first. Kelsey, any idea why they would eat their prey head first?
Honestly, I have no idea. Save the best for last? I don't know.
Like, save that tail.
Yeah.
Great guess. The reason they do that is because most animals' appendages fold down along the length of their body. So like your hands, like putting your hand up in the air is less comfortable for you than putting your hand down straight by your side.
Right.
Because that's the way your hands are supposed to lay. And so they do that so that like while they're taking down an entire rat, its legs aren't like sticking into his mouth and causing abrasions or slowing the process down. Pretty neat, right?
My mind just was blown.
I know. So cool. Another cool thing about snakes that a lot of people ask is why do they stick their tongue out all the time? And you may have noticed Dante is like kind of slowly sticking his tongue out. He's like not really trying to explore this area too much. He's like, I've smelled all the rocks. I know what's happening. But snakes typically stick their tongues out of their mouth so they can smell what's going on around them. And that's why it's forked on either side. So it can actually take in scents from left and right. And that tongue flicks right up into an organ at the roof of their mouth called the Jacobson's organ. And that is a really like fancy organ that basically interprets the sense that he brings in so that he can kind of give himself a picture of what's going on around him. Snakes do have eyes. His are right there. Cute. But they can't use their eyes super well. They're not super great. Oh gosh. Residual pollen, my apologies. So their eyes aren't super great, and so they typically rely on their sense of smell, which is using that big old tongue to sniff around him.
I saw a comment just come through saying that the viewer wasn't a big snake fan. And I was not a snake fan either before I started working at the zoo. And I've got to say, Jake, between your team and our herpetology team, I am like the biggest snake fan now. So
I'm so glad.
There's hope for anyone.
Yeah. I think with snakes, like a lot of the fear is like passed down from generation to generation.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that children aren't afraid of snakes until they're told to be afraid of snakes. So we get a lot of great kids that visit the zoo and are like, oh my gosh, she has a snake, like can I go see it? And parents or guardians or whomever's with them is like, oh no, gross, snakes are gross or icky or I don't like them. And then the kid is like, oh, okay, snakes are gross or icky and I don't like them. And that's just how learning works. So one of the best things that we can do to help snakes, to help bugs, to help all those kind of lesser loved creatures out there is to spread fascination instead of fear. So if a child is excited about an animal, even if you're maybe not the fondest of them, instead of kind of striking them down and being like, don't worry about them or we don't like them, just let them explore for themselves and learn how cool creatures are. And that will inspire a whole new generation of conservationists out there. Because snakes are a really important part of the food web. They provide that natural pest control that we talked about earlier. And without them, we would be overrun with tons and tons of rodents. And, you know, I always like to tell people, Kelsey, that our ecosystems are all about balance and like that system of checks and balances. And without predators like snakes out there, we don't have a balance. And that's not good. A, because we don't want rats and mice eating our food, but then the rats and mice don't have anywhere to go, and that creates a host of other problems. And so it's really important that we have every piece of the puzzle out there.
Yeah, I want to call out a couple comments that I saw, Jake. Harper said, snakes are so underrated, and you're so right. They're completely underrated. They're amazing. And then Amanda said, I can look at them and that's it. And that's totally okay, Amanda. Like, as long as you can look at them and appreciate them, like, you're doing great. So good on you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all we're asking of folks is you don't have to love snakes. You don't even have to like snakes. I just want folks to realize how important snakes are to our ecosystem and just appreciate what they do for us, because I think snakes do a lot more good for folks than people realize.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh,
Jake, I
Dante.
saw several questions come in about like the snake's body itself.
Okay.
You mentioned the Jacobson's organ. I think something a lot of people don't understand is like what a snake's body is made up of. Do they have like a heart and lungs and all of that too?
Yeah, great question. We'll
Can you
talk about it.
explain like?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Kelsey, I'm talking over you. We'll chat a little bit more about their skeletal system later with Harvey out here.
Okay.
But the cool thing about snakes is they have many of the same parts that humans and other mammals have. They have everything kind of a little more squishy and a little longer. So he has lungs that run down. Usually snakes have like one shorter lung that would be maybe about here on his body. His head's there to about here. And then they have a longer lung that goes further down. And then they have a heart. They have a mouth just like we do. I showed his eyes a little bit earlier, and you can see his nostrils there as well, just to the right of his beautiful eye there. And this is a really great opportunity to point out that his eyes fit in with his camouflage, which is so cool. And then another interesting part of a snake is they have what's called a cloaca. Have you heard of cloacas before, Kelsey?
Yes, but
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay, so cloaca, I believe like the Latin translation is something like one hole or like one opening.
Yes.
And that's like very literal. Snakes have one opening that's at the base of their tail, which is actually, if you see right here, there's kind of like a upside down U shape here.
Mm-hmm.
Right under there is his cloaca. He just doesn't like me grabbing his tail, which, like, who can blame him? Right. So I'm not going to show everyone his business. But that's the one area that snakes go to the bathroom from. They can mate from that. The females will lay their eggs or give birth to their live young from there. It really just depends on, what they are feeling like doing on that day. But it all happens from the cloaca, which is really rad.
That is really cool. Jake, I saw a question come in from our friend Kara. Can we talk about the differences between constrictors and venomous snakes and like how that breakdown works?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kara. Miss you. So constrictors, generally speaking, most snakes actually use constriction to help with part of the hunting process. So even venomous snakes will typically envenomate their prey. So they bite into it with their fangs and their teeth, inject it with that venom. But just like a lot of toxins, snake venom doesn't always work like completely rapidly, like you get bit and then you fall over dead. Like, you're going to be okay. You have some time if you're a human. Even for mice and rats, it may take a little while for that venom to take full effect. And so typically they'll envenomate their prey and grab onto it and just wrap around it and hold on to it like a hug as they wait for it to pass away. It's a twisted hug. With constrictors, like your boa constrictor, your pythons, those snakes rely on squeezing their prey to fully dispatch it, to fully kill it. So a snake like Dante, other boas, other pythons are typically a little more heavy-bodied, which means they're a little bit rounder. They have more musculature to them, and that allows them to squeeze really tightly to kill their prey. And that kind of leads me into chatting about a lot of people are like afraid of snakes for a whole host of reasons. Non-venomous snakes, you really like don't have to worry about at all because you're not food.
Right.
Just like I wouldn't like try to eat a person's arm or something like that, even if I was really hungry, like I would refrain from doing that. A snake's really not going to try to eat you out in your backyard or while you're on a hike. What they may do is try to bite you if you scare them or you come too close to them or bother them. But humans do a lot of the same things. We'll like yell or scream or push people away or say, leave me alone or whatever. If you're bothered, totally fair. Snakes just can't speak our languages to be able to say, hey, you're upsetting me. But there's a lot more to their body language than a lot of people know. A lot of people are like aware of what dog body language means because a lot of people work around dogs or have a dog at home.
Right.
Not so many people understand that when a snake is relaxed, this is how a snake looks. He's like pretty spread out. He's sticking his tongue out. His head is down on his body. His muscles are relaxed. He's chilling. Nothing to worry about. So that's like kind of something to keep in mind when you're seeing snakes out in the wild. Like just leave them be. Look but don't touch. And you'll be just fine out there.
What is, I guess, some bad snake body language? Does that exist?
Yeah, it does, Kelsey. Great question. So if they tense up, and Dante ever so slightly usually will tense up when we go to pick him up. And that's just like a reaction to like, what is this happening to me? So typically when we go to handle any of our snakes, we will like touch them on their back first to let them know, hey, I'm here. Like things are happening. Life is going on. And then we'll go ahead and pick them up. But if they stay really tense, that means they're not comfortable. If they also, another thing that I just thought of, Kelsey, is if they go for like a really extended period of time with their tongue inside their mouth, that's like a decent sign that they're like not really sure what's going on. And then of course there's like that really obvious, a lot of people will call it like S-ing up, like they curve back in an S, kind of back away from the rest of their body. And that's like a striking posture. That's them getting ready to hit something with their mouth. Typically that's reserved.
So would that be like their body is straight and then they have an S? Or...
Yeah, so like he's kind of doing a little S right here, but it means nothing because he's relaxed. It would be like if this part of his body was all in a coil back here, and then the rest of the front was curved up in an S. But he would like draw back like he was getting ready to strike. And that's typically if a snake gets cornered or really threatened and it's like, leave me alone, I'm going to bite you. They kind of tell you exactly what they're going to do before they do it. You just have to be present and aware enough to read their body language. And that's tough.
That is hard, especially if you're like out in the woods and you're not expecting to see a snake and maybe you see it too late or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. So things can happen and that's okay. We just learn from our mistakes and learn from our experiences and then try to not scare snakes in the future. It can be... Oh, sorry, Dante. His crate lid just fell. So he's like, hello. But you can see like he's still so relaxed. He just like moved his tail. He was like, I'm present.
What?
All right, so we're going to try to see. Dante, are you ready to go home? You can see him moving just a little bit in response to me picking him up, but he's really quite calm. And this is actually not his home. This is his travel cooler. We travel all of our snakes in insulated coolers like this with a nice live animal sticker on it so that we all know that there are animals in them. Lots of holes for his breathing. And then when it's cooler outside, we will put a warm pack in there with him to make sure that he has all of the warmth that he needs because snakes are ectotherms. And we'll talk about that once I get Harvey out. Now, Harvey, okay, first of all, I should tell you, Kelsey, we got Dante a little bit before we got Harvey. And Dumeral's ground boas are like my second favorite species of snake. And then when we got the opportunity to take Harvey over from our herpetology department, I was over the moon excited because Rainbow boas are beautiful snakes. I'm trying to set you up here so I can get Harvey out. And he came to us as a little baby, and he's still pretty tiny. Hi, Harvey. Hi. He's so cute. Okay, here he is. I know. So I'm going to put him down and then I'll flip the camera around. We'll give him some time to hang out with us.
Let me answer a question real quick, Jake. I saw
Sure.
Amanda ask what the snake is in the men's restroom, and I think that's a Bolognese python.
I think it's just Bolin's. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. You have like what is it? Bolognese is like pasta too, right? It's like I kind of you're just like think about lunch already. Okay.
It's fine.
Let me flip this around for y'all. You can see Harvey. So, interesting fact about Harvey, because he's still a baby, he curls up into his defensive posture often so that he feels really secure. And this is a great way for small snakes, and especially babies, to feel really comfortable, is they will curl up into a ball. And that would protect him out in the wild from predators a little bit more. Here in human care, he has no predators and he's really quite comfortable around people. But typically when we travel, he likes to curl up into a ball. I think he's a little bit just like chill, and he likes the comfort of being in a ball. So I talked a little bit right before we got Harvey out about snakes being ectotherms. And that's a really fancy word that basically means they can't produce their own body heat. And so what that means is they can't shiver, they can't sweat to warm up or cool down. So instead of doing all of that, what snakes have to do is move to a warm area. And so Harvey will come out usually early in the morning and sit under his heat lamp. And that's where he likes to be. And he balls up pretty much like this right under his heat lamp, which is a good indicator that he's not stressed out or scared. He's really just relaxed like this.
Just hanging.
Yeah, typically with other rainbow boas, they'll curl up really tightly like this if they're really afraid or if they don't like something. But we've learned after working with Harvey for about 3 years now that this is just how he likes to be when he's moving around, and that's okay. The coolest part about rainbow boas is their iridescence, and you can see it a little bit on camera, but it doesn't really show up super well. But he shines in a beautiful rainbow pattern, which is just stunning to get to see. What do you think, Harvey? So cute.
You can kind of see it a little bit there, kind of like 4 inches down. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty darn cool. Now, when he's fully stretched out, he's actually close to 2 feet long, which is kind of crazy. He's so much skinnier than Dante is. But same idea for hunting. He relies on that camouflage. The interesting thing about his camouflage is because he has all these stripes and blocks and circles, that kind of breaks up his body shape and allows him to hide really easily out in the wild. And so he'll lie in wait for prey too, and then strike at it and eat it. Yeah, so cool. Oh, sorry, Harvey, I'm trying to help you out here. Oh, there you go. He's like, okay, now I'll explore. He loves finding different things to climb on. So I didn't get him anything super tall today because he's kind of a daredevil and will just climb up really, really high and then just wait for you to come save him. So you can see his whole length here. He's quite a big snake, actually. And he's only about maybe 3 years old now. So he's still got quite a bit of growing to do before he's full grown.
How old can snakes get, Jake? Does it vary by species?
It does vary a little bit by species. Both of these kids here can live to be about 20 or 25 years old in human care, sometimes just a little bit longer. Now, Kelsey, I mentioned a little earlier, we would talk about the snake skeletal system. And I think their skeleton is so cool. I highly encourage all of y'all out there to Google like pictures of snake skeletons when we're done with this, because it's really neat to get to see them. Basically, they have a lot of the same bones that mammals do. They have a lot more ribs because they go down most of the length of their body, and they have a lot of spine as well. And then they have so many more articulations or points of contact between the different bones than we do. And that's how they are able to move around and have so much flexibility. I can't contort myself in a circle like Harvey can,
right?
Because I don't have as many articulations. There are no other reasons for that. Okay. What else do we want to talk about with Harvey, Kelsey? Oh.
Well, I saw a question. How long will he get when he's full grown?
maybe 3.5, maybe 4.5 feet long. It kind of depends from snake to snake, but typically rainbow boas can get upwards of about 4 feet long. What I was going to chat about next, Kelsey, was about the predators that snakes have out in the wild.
Yeah.
So they're not just predators themselves. They also have other animals that may prey upon them that they have to watch out for. And the comments are kind of in my way, so if you can't quite see his face, let me know. I can't really see what you're seeing on the screen.
Honestly, right. I don't even know where his face went.
Okay. He's blending in. Oh, it's over here. Okay.
We lost it.
We lost him. Okay. His head is right under this coil here. He's just chilling. Oh, there's his cute face. Hi, Harvey. So predators of snakes in the wild vary pretty greatly from species to species and depending on their age. Obviously, when snakes are really tiny, whether they are born straight from the mother or they are laid as an egg and then hatch out later, it really kind of depends, but they get consumed by a lot of different animals. Here in the US, our snakes get eaten by raccoons and coyotes and birds of prey and opossums and skunks. Every kind of animal might eat a baby snake. As snakes grow up and get a little bit larger, they have a little easier time of surviving. They don't have as many predators that can hunt them, but certainly a snake like Harvey, who's only going to max out around 4 feet long, will still, unfortunately, be easy to consume by predators out in the wild. But again, when we talk about the food web, every part is important. And so even those animals that get eaten are a really valuable part of the food web. So it stinks for individuals, but it's good for the ecosystem. That kind of answers the question about who eats them. Any other questions so far?
Yeah, I saw a question from Ava. She was wondering, was he born at the Nashville Zoo?
He actually was, yeah. So he was born to our herpetology team here at the Nashville Zoo. So he really just made a quick little easy move over to our department when he was really young. And now he hangs out with us and he does the same stuff Dante does. He comes out for our shows and our encounters and he travels around to our outreach programming. Our docents will take him out to see birthday parties and all kinds of programs.
I've seen a couple of questions come through about his pattern. Do the rings mean anything? Is every snake's pattern different? Can we talk about that?
Yep. So just like most other animals, snakes have unique patterns. So no two snakes look exactly identical, which is really cool. And I mentioned a little bit earlier that these stripes and circles and blocks that you see on snakes help them camouflage. And with Dante, we talked a little bit about how he camouflages in with the forest floor and the leaf litter. The rainbow boas are kind of neat because they actually rely more on disrupting their body shape and pattern so that it's harder for predators to spot them and kind of identify them as a snake.
That's really interesting.
Harvey, goodbye. He's like, I'm going to go hide behind this rock.
Bye. I saw a question, I think, from Kim, and I just lost it. Oh, there it is. She asked, do all snakes lay eggs? And that is false, right, Jake?
Correct. Yeah. So many snakes will lay eggs, but many snakes will also be what's called ovoviviparous, which
That's a vocab word.
A very fancy word. In a very simplified definition, so like definitely if you're more interested in this, Kim, feel free to Google it and you can get like a very scientific explanation. But Jake's certified easier definition is that these snakes will have the babies inside their body in kind of like egg sacs. Mm-hmm. And then when the female is ready to give birth, they start coming out of that cloaca that we talked about a little bit earlier. And in the process of getting rid of the babies from her body, those egg sacs break. So sometimes inside the mom, sometimes outside the mom. It's sometimes a really messy process. And then those babies are off on their own. typically snakes are not great like at parental care, and that's why they have so many babies at one time. So
Right.
even a snake that gives birth to live young, like the ovoviviparous rainbow boa, they will have like upwards of 30 young at a time. And that's because a lot of them will get eaten.
I gotta say, I watched a Rainbow Boa give birth last year with our herbs team, and it was a mind-blowing experience.
How cool is that?
It was nuts.
That's so, so cool. I saw another question, Kelsey. Someone was asking, are they primarily domesticated or are they mainly found in the wild?
Oh.
Which is a really interesting question that I don't think I've ever gotten before. Snakes are not considered a domesticated species. There are quite a few snakes that are bred in human care, including the rainbow boa, like right here at our zoo. And there are a lot of snakes that are bred for the exotic pet trade. So ball pythons and corn snakes are some of the most commonly bred species of snakes, but no snakes are truly domesticated. And so the Brazilian rainbow boa is found down in Central and South America, from about Costa Rica all the way to the northern parts of Argentina. So they're found in quite a few different locales. However, it's always in rainforest regions. I'm going to try to step outside with Harvey to see if we can get more iridescence. We're taking him on a journey. He's like, I'm okay with this.
Field trip, Harvey.
Can you see any more iridescence?
Yes.
I can.
I can at least, but I also know what I'm looking for. So
yeah, so they kind of shine and shimmer and have beautiful rainbow patterns on their body, which is how they get the name the Rainbow Boa. And I love to share that our team decided to name this guy Harvey after the human rights activist Harvey Milk, because he's a rainbow boa.
Aw.
Yeah, so handsome. All right. Any last questions about Harvey or snakes, Kelsey?
Well, your favorite question, Jake, came through from Ava. Ava was wondering, how many teeth do snakes have?
Hi, Ava. Great question. And I actually looked it up this time so that I wouldn't be caught without an answer again. Snakes, all different species, have different numbers of teeth in their mouth. And snake teeth are actually quite a bit smaller than most people think. So I think a lot of people are like afraid of getting bit by a snake. But a dog bite hurts so much worse than a snake bite, I'll tell you that. They have teeny tiny teeth, and it ranges from about 30 teeth in their mouth all the way up to about 100 or 150. So some snakes have tons and tons of teeth, which is kind of crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I thought that they had like 30, but knowing that some may have 100, that's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
Mm-hmm. Anna Grace asked, what is a baby snake called?
Oh, gosh. I've only ever called them babies. I don't know. Everybody has like all these different names and words to call children, and I just call them babies. Anna Grace, let us know if you find an answer, like if people call them something cool, like a noodle or something when they're babies. I'd love to know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that answers most of the questions I've seen, Jake. I'm so happy that you showed Harvey today. It made my whole day.
Yay, I'm so glad. Thanks everyone for joining us for our boa extravaganza.
Ooh, I like that. Maybe I'll name the YouTube video that.
Yeah, there you go.